It was just like a random day that I would just be out and I'm taking this load. And while I was out taking the load, this load was real heavy. And while I was taking the load that particular day, it was like God had everything slow down so I can actually watch what was actually happening around me. So while I was watching what was happening around me, God was showing me, he said that at that specific area where I was going to drop the load, it was a recycling center. And God says he wanted me to take this word and tell us today, the name of this topic is the drop-off center. And God said that we would lay aside every weight that so easily beset us. And I was sitting there, I would say, well, God, you're saying lay aside this weight, and I got a load on my back right now. Why having this load on my back? God told me to look around and watch the people that was coming in just like I was. They were coming in. Nobody was looking to see what someone had on. Nobody was actually there to even care about what you were doing. Everybody had that one purpose. That purpose was to drop off what you were carrying. And God was saying onto us that we need to not carry all of this unnecessary weight that we are carrying. We know things in the world is changing. Things are happening all around us. God says there's some things that we need to start dropping off. We can't continue to walk by faith with carrying unnecessary weight when he said we were supposed to cast all our cares, everything that we're having on us. God says we're supposed to lay it aside. And in order to lay it aside, you got to drop it off. God says there's no need to toting these things when I already told you that you can cast your cares upon me. You don't have to be the one that have to hold all of this stuff on you. God says he's giving you a place that it's okay to drop it off. He said you can actually, when you get ready to go to the drop-off center, God says that's what we're here for. When we report to church on Thursdays, when we reporting on Sunday, this is the drop-off center. Different things that you're coming with and these things that are holding you down, these things that's holding you bondage. God says today you can walk out of here free. You don't have to come. You don't have to continue to walk with this weight on you. And I noticed that while I was there, it was real heavy. Once I was even backing into the dock, I was starting to back down into position. And when I got in position, I was watching everybody. Some of the people that was there, it was easy for them because they just pushed the button and all of that weight just dropped right off them. But unlike myself, I had to manually take that weight off. And even though it had me to have to do more, God said the same mission was accomplished. Everybody was there to be able to drop off what they came to drop off. And God was saying, in order for us to continue, we can't continue to make excuses while we carrying this stuff. When he went to the cross to carry the ultimate burden, the burden that was more heavier than what we was actually having to deal with. So he said, instead of you dealing with it, he said, I'll take all of this upon me. When I went to the cross, and then that way, when I was nailed to the cross, you would no longer have to deal with this actual burdens and the stuff that the world does. Just because the world is suffering in this time, God says we don't have to suffer. We as Christians, we should always know that we have a hedge of protection that's upon us that the world doesn't have. You have access to stuff, but God says in order to really get it, you have to drop it off. Some things God says I can't give you if you're not dropping off the necessary things that's in your life. Some things that we have in our life is because it's by choice. Our choices sometimes have us load things onto ourselves that we shouldn't have to carry. But because of our own disobedience, sometimes our disobedience causes us to add to the load that God is telling you to cast off. God said this is the time for us to drop it off. We don't have to continue to carry the things that are upon us. And I was thinking about it, and I talk to Bishop from time to time, and I tell him the only person that can relate to what a load feel like on your back is a person that have done it. And I talk to Bishop about it all the time, and I said, one thing I noticed when I was carrying those different loads is while I'm carrying that load, it becomes a different pressure. You have a different pressure on you that is hard to explain. I remember one time me and my wife, I was taking this load, and while I was taking the load, I'm coming down the mountains. And while I'm coming down the mountains, I was noticing while I was applying for brakes, there was no brakes. I didn't want to have my wife panic. So I'm sitting here. I'm like, God, here I am sitting here coming down the mountains. I didn't want to tell her that we don't have brakes. So the more I pat for the brakes, I was slowly patting for the brakes, but the weight was still continuing to push. And it wasn't until that I got to a complete stop at the bottom of the hill. It was a guardrail that was there, but with that guardrail being present, I was able to stop just before the rail that I could have actually went over off of the mountain. But because of the grace of God, he kept me even with the weight that what I had on my back. And what I'm saying is sometimes that you have these things that's going on with you that God said, if you had to just obey me a long time ago, even in those rough spots that you were going off and you were getting ready to bear off, could have lost your life, but because of grace and mercy, he calls a guardrail to be in place that you don't go off of the cliff and you still remain on the path. So God is saying, even in whatever we're going through, remember that we have a place that we can drop off these cares, these burdens. We don't have to sit around and look around and see what the other one is doing. We have to remain on course and continue to run this race with patience. And God was saying to me, also God was saying, once we relieve ourselves of this burden, once we take this fully off of us, God says then he would actually be able to move us into the place that he would have us to be in him. We can't fully get there weighted down. It's not until, and I noticed that even when I had the surgery and some of the weight, while the weight was coming off, I started feeling better. And this, God says, that's when you're going to start feeling better in me, when you start relieving yourself of these things that you are carrying every day. And like I said, the choices that we make, our choices will end up causing us to go backwards. We would end up being delayed to our destination when we start constantly holding on to things that we shouldn't have. God is saying to us today that we have this drop-off center, and with this drop-off center, God said he didn't intend for us to do it alone. So he had the bishop and Prophetess Bryant that will be able to help go through this with us. Sometimes when we run out of energy and run out of the necessary, God said he put our pastor, bishop, and first lady in our lives to be able to help us through and guide us through with the weight that we are carrying, to be able to help us sometimes when we don't understand it. And that's why God put the necessary people in our way, so that way they can allow us to be able to drop off everything and don't have to carry it. They teach us, even in Bible study, we're learning to be able to know how to take this weight off of us. And I'm telling everybody today, I don't want to be long, but I wanted to be able to come and let us know that we can drop it off. We don't have to continue to carry it. Today is the day that you can release yourself. You do not have to walk and have this stuff on you. Today is the day that you can release whatever you carrying. This is the day to be able to, God says, choose this day for you to know who you're going to serve in these last days. We can't be just like the world where we're just undecisive. Everybody doing what they want to do, living how they want to live. God says he's holding all of us accountable. And if he's given us the word and the things that we need to do, that's the things that we need to take when we go to the drop-off center in prayer. When we get to the drop-off center, in order to drop it off, you got to know how to activate whatever you're using. If God is giving you something like even the trailer, if you don't know how to operate what you have on your back, God says it doesn't even matter that you got the tools. God says you got to know how to be able to relieve yourself of those burdens. And the way you do it is through prayer, scriptures, coming into the house of God, coming on Bible study nights, getting the necessary words so that you will be able to know how to be able to stand against the hands of the enemy. And I wanted to give y'all what God has given me. I hope y'all got something. Thank y'all so much.
Down, Lord, burden down, Lord, since I lay